Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Coaches Association of Ontario's Get Coaching webinar. Really happy to have everyone who's joined us today. I know some of you will be watching this in a recording as well. Um, Before I get us kicked off here, I just want to acknowledge that we are presenting this webinar from Toronto, which is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It's now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. So we have a lot of different types of coaches who signed up to view this webinar today, and I kind of want to let you know who they are and that we're going to be covering sort of what we're going to cover in this webinar. So some people today are just considering coaching. They're thinking about what coaching is all about and if it might be right for them. Some people just started coaching, so they either have signed up but yet to start, or they're into their first year maybe. And then there's some of us as well who are looking for more support, looking for more information about coaching pathways, getting training, and taking their coaching to the next level. That's why we asked those questions coming in, and I just want you to know that this webinar is going to cover sort of all areas. We're going to move quickly through it. I won't keep you here all night. It'll be quite quick, I think. But we'll sort of start at the beginning and sort of move through. So if you're looking for one of those later sections, we'll be there in just a few minutes. Okay, so who we are. So I'm Stuart McLaren. I'm the Senior Lead for Innovation and Program Development here with the Coaches Association of Ontario. And I'll be sort of leading us through this webinar. And then my colleague, Brooke Leonardo, she can introduce herself.
Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm Brooke Leonardo. I'm Senior Leads of Communications here. So a lot of what you saw on social, I'll coordinate that, and happy to see you all here tonight.
Okay, great. And then I want to introduce Gabrielle Bunag. You can open your mic and say hi. She's a community coach who's going to be answering some questions for us and giving her perspective on coaching.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Gabriella Bunag, and I'm glad to be here and help share any advice I can.
Okay, so before we dive into it, I just want to tell you about why we're running this webinar. So, you know, the sports system in Canada and in Ontario, it can be complicated. I just want to say about that up front. There's a good reason for it. You know, we're trying to improve the sports system for everyone involved and especially the athletes. But over time, it's built a lot of different layers. There's also 65 different sports that are recognized in Canada and supported by Sport Canada and the province, the ministry here in Ontario. And then there's different contexts, right? 6-year-old soccer, you know, high performance, a 21-year-old athletes. There's a lot going on. So it is challenging to navigate. So if you're finding that a little bit challenging, you're not alone. That's most of us. The second reason is we need coaches. So one stat we just learned this year from some research is that about 65% of coaches say their club has a hard time finding enough coaches to fill its roles every year. So coaching is something that a lot of people do, but there's not quite enough to meet that need. So teams, clubs, athletes need more coaches. And finally, the Coaches Association of Ontario, us, we're your association. We work for you. If you coach in Ontario, yeah, we work for you. So that's why we're supporting this. Okay, very briefly about CAO. If you're new to CAO, we do funding for coaches and things like that. We do training in at the NCCP and every other form of coach training that we can do, mostly built around the multi-sport components and sort of the art of coaching. We run a bunch of events throughout the year for coaches, and we run mentorship programs for coaches of all different types. We'll talk about that a little bit later. More on all those can be found on our website. So now I'm going to turn over and ask Gabrielle a question. So tell us a little about where you coach, like who you're coaching, and then what getting started coaching was all about.
Absolutely. So I currently coach with the Toronto Lords basketball organization. So I coach their under 12 girls team, and they are a rep team, so they're competitive, but still at the community level. I also coach with Girls Addicted to Basketball, which is a not-for-profit skills-based basketball program for girls across Scarborough. I started coaching actually when I was 14 years old. I volunteered helping with various levels of elementary school, then high school. And then when I got into university, I decided to coach on a more serious level, still as a community coach. So that's when I started with GAB and being able to help teach uh, predominantly girls and youth those fundamental skills. And then just recently in September 2023, that's when I started coaching rep basketball.
Cool, cool. So for everyone in the audience, coaching is something that is practiced by Ontarians of every age, race, ability, income, level of education, everything. Really, coaching covers the board of Ontarians. Great times to take up coaching. So, there's not really a bad time unless you're incredibly busy in your life. But often people who take up coaching are either a parent, who's looking to spend sort of more time with their child or get involved in one of their child's activities. A transitioning athlete, so someone who's sort of transitioning out of a competitive role and wants to stay involved. Or if you used to play a sport and you, instead of transitioning into coaching, you sort of left it behind, maybe you want to reconnect with it in a new role. Some people take up coaching to just get involved in their community. It's something that takes place out of the home, away from a screen, with face-to-face with people. So it's a great way to connect with your community. And some people do it just for the challenge and the personal growth. So, Gabriella, why did you start coaching? You've been doing it for quite a while. What motivated you to do this?
So when I was younger, 14, I started coaching just because I wanted to learn what coaching was like. I had just finished playing basketball for the first time competitively, and I really liked how coaches were very analytical. I liked how they saw the court in a different way. And that reasoning actually continues to this day. So it's very interesting to see how basketball is played and how it's watched as a coach compared to a player. I'm also a FIBA official, so now I can see it from three different perspectives. But the coaching perspective is definitely my favorite one because you see a lot more in terms of not only how should the game be played, but also you're looking at how should your players connect with each other. You're seeing different relationships and how they intertwine. So it's not just seeing the game itself, but it's helping with personally my people skills, being able to read people, and also being able to time when things should happen. So whether it's basketball or a project at work, I'm able to see, okay, maybe now's not the best time because everyone's a little tense. Same thing with the court. Maybe I shouldn't push for this play right now because everyone's a little tense. So it's definitely helped me see everything from more of a bird's eye view, and being able to grow with that has kept me in coaching for sure.
That's a very I love that answer. So you were a transitioning athlete, I caught there. So that was part of your coaching journey.
A little
Um,
bit, a little bit.
a little bit. Okay. So, a lot of we've asked coaches across Ontario why they started coaching. And so the most common reasons are giving back to the community, staying connected to their sport, or they might have been encouraged by a friend or other coach to take it up. And also, their child's in the sport or coaching their child is a big motivator as well. So some stats for you, about 3/4 of all coaches are volunteers. That's the biggest group of coaches, and then there is a percentage there that are either paid or a salary. And 98% of coaches say it's been a positive experience overall, despite the challenges and difficulties of coaching. Overall, they say it's a positive experience. Um, so Gabriella, how did you, in the process of getting started and finding a club, I guess you started with your school, but after that, how did you find the club you're at now?
So I work part-time with TMU, Toronto Metropolitan University, and the Toronto Lords actually rent our gym every week. So I was in charge of that gym, and I got to know a lot of the coaches there. I had a few chats just talking about what I noticed. And then after a while, they actually contacted me and asked if I would be available to coach one of the teams. So that was very roundabout way of coincidence being in the right place. I also coached back with Scarborough Blues before COVID, and I actually reached out to the Scarborough Blues. So it was more of me reaching out, and because I wanted to coach in my community, I'm from Scarborough, and I wanted to give back in that way, but I didn't know how. So I just went on Google, looked up the Scarborough Blues website, found a contact. It was not the right contact for sure. A lot of these clubs do not update their websites regularly, but I managed to get in contact with somebody and they directed me to one person, then another person before I finally got to a coach who was looking for an assistant. And I did help him out short term, and then COVID hit, and unfortunately, that relationship did end because everything went online.
Right. Thank you for that. So a couple different options there, right? So both at your school, both searching on your own, which is something that a lot of people do. They just Google clubs in their area. You can find one on Google Maps and reach out to them. Yes, their websites are sometimes a little outdated, but as you said, they often need coaches. It's very likely that the clubs in your area need coaches, so they'll be very happy to have you. It's not something that you're going to be turned away most of the time. And then, of course, the voluntold method was your most recent one, where they just searched you out and said, "Can you come do it?" Yeah, so places people really like to coach usually are either a club they're connected to, or maybe that their child plays at, maybe supporting a coach they already know. So a lot of coaches take on an assistant coach, and a lot of coaches start as an assistant coach. So if you say, I'm not really ready to jump in full hat, that's a great way to do it. And then you can also volunteer with your school teams. A lot of schools require a teacher to be one of the coaches, but they can take parent or other coaches as well as assistants. Okay, so now we're going to get into some of the pathway stuff here for people who are already sort of engaged in coaching or getting started. So we have a thing called the National Coach Certification Program, or the NCCP, and it's really the cornerstone of coach education in Canada. Gabrielle, have you done any coach training, or is there any sort of requirements for you when you got started?
When I got started, it was back when the NCCP was structured a little differently, but there was still the requirement of going to a course and then getting certified with a test and having somebody teach me how to be a coach. That involved getting my NCCP number and then signing up online and making sure I keep up to date with a lot of the modules and certifications online. Currently, with joining a rep basketball team, I've had to upgrade my certification. So currently I'm taking the Learn to Train certification course, which is for training those under the age of 12 or 13 and being able to do so safely. So that consists of a course in class as well as a evaluation that takes place in person during one of my practices, and a test as well. I believe I haven't gotten to that part yet, but there are a lot of online modules, online courses that I have been doing since I got my NCCP back in 2015 or 16.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's great. And we're going to talk about a few of those things you talked about in terms of sport-specific training, some online e-learning stuff you can do, and that pathway in a few minutes. Other things I just want to say about the NCCP is that it's a unified system for all sports in Canada. Every sport is part of the NCCP, and it's been around since the early 70s. They just celebrated, I think, their 50th year. And we're very fortunate in Canada to have a unified system that everything runs under. Most nations don't have that. It helps you a lot when you transfer between sports. Okay, so here's a question, I don't know the answer to this. Have you coached any other sports, or are you just a basketball coach?
I tried my hand very briefly at coaching badminton. I played it
Okay.
very briefly in high school. It's a very difficult sport to coach, I've learned, because a lot of it comes down to natural athleticism and natural speed and agility. So there
Yeah.
wasn't too much for me to teach other than the fundamentals of, okay, this is how you hit the birdie. This is the areas you should aim for, and this is how to work in doubles. But otherwise, basketball was definitely my main sport, and I decided to focus all my energy on that one instead.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I want to talk about the difference between sport-specific and multi-sport training. So all coaching training in Canada, or like certifications or statuses, you could call them, consist of two components, and they are the sport-specific component, and that's like the, how to pitch a ball, how to teach hitting, and this would be a baseball analogy, how to do catching. In soccer, you talk about the skills and drills you might teach a soccer group that is related to the age group you're trying to teach. The multi-sport components are like the theory stuff, so around how to plan a practice, ethics courses, and things around, managing conflict perhaps. What's great about the NCCP system is the multi-sport components are universal for all sports. So, when you want to do a couple sports, you already have that multi-sport component. You just have to add the sport-specific component, and you're good to go. About 40% of coaches coach more than one sport or have coached more than one sport. But that does mean 60% only coach one sport, so you're in good shape there, Gabrielle. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you about this one. You already told me you have an NCCP number, but the way all the coaching certification in Canada works is there's a national online database called The Locker. It is found at coach.ca, which is the website. You should check that out if you haven't ever been there. It's the website for the Coaches Association of Canada, which is sort of the federal level. And they house The Locker, which is this online database. It holds over 1 million coach records of 1 million Canadians who have been coaches in Canada, going all the way back to the 70s. All your training from every sport you do in any sort of coaching capacity is tied to that account. It's free to sign up. It's a standard 2-minute sign up with an email and a name, and they'll give you a number. And that's sort of your pathway into coach training in Canada. There's a lot of information on that page too about the pathways for the different sports, lots of e-learnings and stuff. We'll cover that in a few minutes. So you've been coaching quite a while, Gabriella. How do you go about your own coach development? Have you just done training the courses, or have you done other things outside of the NCCP?
Definitely, I've done other things such as going to open coaching symposiums. I know the Raptors like to host a lot of open coaching clinics, as well as Canada Basketball, specifically to basketball. But even just learning from other coaches, I have met quite a few coaches throughout the years, some throughout the Toronto Lords, some throughout just in life, going through different sporting events, different sports networking events, and being able to meet coaches actually such as Krista here, who's in the picture that you've used. I've met her and I've had the great opportunity to learn under her, just to learn not even how they coach basketball, but how they are so great at what they do, what tips and tricks they have, learning how to handle different levels of personalities, handling different schedules and time management, which is really important because most times you have a practice that's only 2 hours, but you want to fit offense, defense, but also team building all in one, and you really don't have the time. So learning different tricks on how to combine certain things so that you do hit all of your goals during each practice. So just being able to meet other coaches really helped. And of course, through NCCP, all the modules that are there throughout the year, a lot of them are free. As you said, those really helped just open different doors and learn different things. Just like there's ones on making headway on concussions, and those are really important things that no one would teach me otherwise.
Thanks. That's a great answer. And thanks for sharing that with us. Yeah, so you covered a lot of the ones in my notes there, but I'll highlight them. So a lot of you asked, about becoming a better coach or developing as a coach. So there is the NCCP courses and pathways, and some of you are probably required to go through those depending on where you're coaching. But there's also a lot of PD events going on, professional development stuff. So the CAO, we run a lot of webinars and summits. We have a summit series you can find, and we like to cover in those events a lot of things that are not in the NCCP. So smaller stuff like dealing with parents or how to build fun into a practice or things like that. Sports, your sport probably also runs a lot of PD webinar components now. I don't want to speak for the sport, but I will say after COVID, it became a very popular thing for sports to run these. They're usually free. So there's lots of great coach development stuff out there now. Connecting with other coaches you mentioned is another great way. You know, once you become a coach, you're sort of in that coaching community, and everyone in coaching loves getting better at coaching. I'll say that. So they love talking shop. CAO also runs dedicated mentorship programs. So we've run a bunch of different programs over the years, but we're redoing our program right now, and it's going to reopen in May. So in just 2 weeks, I think 2 or 3 weeks, and you'll be able to apply if you want. And in this program, we provide a one-to-one mentorship match. So we'll match you with another coach in Ontario who has a lot of experience, and they'll be your mentor for 12 months, helping you out in your own coach development however you wish. So whether it's more skills and stuff, whether it's looking at a coaching career, or whether it's working on some of that sports psych stuff, whatever you want to do. So definitely take a look for that. We're going to send you some links to that in a follow-up email after the webinar. So we'll get you covered there. Coach development is like a key pillar of coaching, we think, and it's all about coaching the coach, as I put it there. I guess before I get to this slide, Gabrielle, I just want to ask you one more thing. So, is there anything you wish you knew about coaching, you know, when you first started or your first years, or something that comes to mind that you said, "Oh, I wish I knew that when I started"?
Definitely. I wish I knew how many doors it would open, actually. When I started coaching, I thought, well, this is the career I've chosen. I'm going to coach for the rest of my life. I'm going to become a university coach and then an NBA coach, WNBA, one of those.
Right.
But then I realized that coaching can be done at any level and it can be done long term. I thought you had to keep progressing, go community, then competitive, then high level. But I could just stay at community for as long as I would like. And I would like to stay here as long as I can because it gives me such satisfaction coaching younger kids and being able to teach them fundamentals that they can take on for the rest of their lives as they grow. It also helps me pursue other career paths. So by trade, I am not a coach full time. I am a human resources individual. And that is the career I've chosen to pursue at a higher level. So I get to do both and have the best of both worlds, which I didn't think was possible when I started coaching, albeit I was very young.
Yeah. Thank you. So we looked at all the questions you guys asked, and there is a few big buckets. So a lot of you asked about how to start as a coach. So hopefully we talked a little bit about that. It's all about, finding a club or a location in your community or some in your network to get started, and telling you that it's great to reach out to them. They definitely want you. Talked about, a lot of you asked about how to get training or dealing with your coach pathway. So we talked about the NCCP a bit. In our next slide, I'm going to tell you about the specifics of that part because that is the really confusing technical part. Talked about becoming a better coach. So it's all about that coach development, and our website has lots of information about how to do that. And just looked for those opportunities. There's also, of course, books and speaking from other coaches and things like that. Some of you asked about promoting sport in your community. That's something that there are organizations that do that. Often the provincial sport organizations, like let's say Basketball Ontario, doesn't do a lot of that, but there are great ones like Participation, Kids Sport, True Sport. So you could definitely reach out to us at CEO by email, and we can help connect you on that one. Some of you asked about specific coaching skills like leadership, conflict resolution, or positive coaching. Almost all of those are actually covered by NCCP courses. They're usually a little bit more development level ones, but there's courses such as a course called Conflict Resolution, NCCP, or Coaching and Leading Effectively. That's a leadership one. There's one called Creating a Positive Sport Environment, which is actually an e-learning. So those exist there. So if you're looking for specific skills around coaching, again, email us as well. If you don't find it on the website, we can connect you with the right resource. Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk to you just about this pathway. And we're going to use a soccer pathway as an example because it is soccer season starting. and what they sort of look like. And I'll take you through the Soccer Ontario website briefly, and then we'll do the open Q&A. So this is a snip from the Ontario Soccer webpage. I'm going to bring it up in a second. And it lists all the things you need to become what they call a learn to train coach. So this is a group for, I believe this is under 12 as well for soccer. There's an age group there. And it has a list, a bunch of things. Now on the website, you can link to all of them, but there's different components. So the first set of components here is the sport-specific NCCP. So we talked about that. So that learn to train theory and practical components, they call it, that's like soccer stuff. Then below that, there's a course called NCCP Make Ethical Decisions and the corresponding online evaluation. That's a multi-sport NCCP that CAO runs, that's us. Something called Respect in Sport, and if any of you have been in sport for a while, you might know this one. It's a third-party organization run by a group called Respect in Sport, and it's all about sort of ethics and fair play and around everyone involved in sport, including parents. And then there's some multi-sport e-learnings. So that module there, Making Headway in Sport, it's a free module that teaches you about concussion protocols and things like that. You know, it's important that everyone knows how to deal with concussion, so that's why it's free. Same with the emergency action plan, also free. Understand the rule of two, also free. That's a safe sport module. Okay, so I'm going to switch my screen here very briefly and show you what this looks like on the web page. Okay, here we are. So this is the Ontario Soccer webpage. So no matter what sport you're looking to try to get trained in or start coaching in, you can usually go to their website and you just sort of put in Ontario and then the sport, and you'll pretty much find the provincial sport organization as the first one. And then they'll have a coach tab, and under that you can find the courses, and they list all the different pathways. Now, soccer has a lot of different options, and you can see here they tell you that the learn to train status is for U10 to U12. So you know you're in the right place. There's lots of information here, and you can read through this, but they'll usually list a bunch of different courses. This is that snip I just showed you. And what's great about this is these sort of link to the actual thing. So, you know, if you go to the Making Headway one here, it'll take you to this page, tells you about the module, how to access it. There's a link. This one is hosted by coach.ca, and it's taken through that online database you can see in the top corner here called the Locker. You just click there and it'll ask you to make an account. Some of the other options here, like the Make Ethical Decisions, will take you to our website. And then these Learn to Train practical components will take you to a registration page within Ontario Soccer. Once you have all these, you'll get credits and they go into your NCCP account. And I'll show you how that looks in a second. And then you have a status and you're sort of trained. This is the e-learning page with inside the locker, and you can find all the different e-learnings here, like NCCP Making Headway, which is the concussion module. But go down and start. There's different versions, and all the different sports in here, all their different e-learnings. So those are easy ones to access. If you're looking for courses, they can be found at Coaches Association of Ontario. That's our website under the events page. So we list all our courses here. You can search for any course there, and you can find out more about all the courses through this section of the website. Something you can also do if you have any questions about these pathways, because they are some are very straightforward and some are rather tricky, is you just go to the Contact Us page on our website. And down here, you'll see our staff. There's Jeremy, you can find myself. And so over here, there's a list of sports for each staff. And we each cover about 10 or 15 sports in Ontario. Find the contact of your sport and email them right here. We definitely do customer service in a very direct manner for any coach in Ontario who contacts us. So there's no reason not to do so. Gabrielle, before we go to the Q&A, can you just tell me a little bit about how being a coach has impacted you in maybe in any way, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's impacted me physically in terms of it keeps me fit. I participate in many of the practices. I'm running around with the kids. I'm showing the examples because a lot of kids learn differently. So some need to see it, some need to hear it, some need to try it. So we all do it together just to show an example. And then even one-on-one, when I walk around, I'm active with them. So it definitely keeps me fit and has impacted my health long term for it. But it definitely makes me happy. It has impacted me by helping me feel that sense of giving back to the community. It helps a lot when the kids remember you years later. And I've coached kids throughout the years with girls addicted to basketball, and they come back as high schoolers or even in university and they say, "Hey, I remember you as a coach. Thank you. You've helped me grow my love for this sport, for basketball." And that really does keep me into coaching because it feels like I'm making a difference and instilling something that each kid will really take on with them in the future. I may not be with them as their coach, but I know that I've planted some seeds and helped inspire them at least a little bit once in their life. And it really helps grow that community of the sport because now I have a whole community of girls who play basketball, who love basketball. And when I started playing basketball, that wasn't there. So it's very, very good to have that community and will only get better as I keep coaching and more kids start going with it.
Thanks for that. Yeah, it can be a very impactful experience both on the athletes, but it's also to know that it does impact the coach, and then it's great for the community as well. Okay, so there's some really easy steps if you're new to coaching or you're thinking about coaching or starting. There's some stuff we can recommend you do right away. So one is you can get your NCCP number if you don't have one. Brooke's going to throw a link to that in the chat. Again, it's free, takes 2 minutes, it's an email, and if you coach anywhere in Canada, you're going to need it. We really recommend you check out that Making Headway module. It's pretty short. I think it's like 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30. It's, again, free. All you need is the number to take it. And that'll give you a taste of what NCCP course content is like and what it's trying to teach you. It gives you a credit, goes right in your transcript. That's good. We also run a great introductory course called Fundamental Movement Skills. This is all about how you teach kids the basics of movement, running, jumping, throwing. Normally, it's a $70 course, but we're running it right now as part of a promotion through National Volunteer Week for $10. So I think Brooke's going to throw a link in the chat as well for that. If not, you can find it on our website. There's a couple course offerings. It is running online, so you can do it through webinar, and we're only charging $10 for it. So that's a great opportunity to take that course, and I think it's a good place to get started if you're thinking about what coaching is all about. Okay, so now I'm going to open it up to the Q&A in case we missed anything, we didn't cover anything, or you have specific questions you want us to answer. I'm going to let you guys have a minute there to use the little Q&A button on the webinar to throw your questions in.
Stuart, we actually, yeah, we already have a couple questions. I think we've addressed some of them, but I want to read them anyway, just to ensure that we have answered the coaches adequately. So someone asked, is there a specific website where you can register to start NCCP courses? So I'm hoping that coach, we were able to answer that question, but if you...
I'll recap it quickly.
Yeah.
Go to coach.ca. I think that link's in the chat now. It's the same as that getting your NCCP number link. Get your number, and that's a good place to start. And there's an e-learning tab there where you can do any of the e-learnings. A lot of them are free, and then there's some that are about $15. The other place is through our website, coachesontario.ca, where we have all the multi-sport modules that run. And then if you're looking for sport-specific courses, you're going to be looking for your provincial sport organization. So that'll be like Soccer Ontario, Basketball Ontario, and they'll have your sport-specific stuff on their website under the coaching tab.
Hopefully that helped. Someone else asked, what if we want to be a coach like they named the sport of handball, which in coach.ca, there is no specific page to show the exact courses we have to take.
Yeah, so that's a great question. There is, I believe, pathways for handball. However, some of those smaller sports like handball, some of the website content is not super updated. unfortunately. So the best answer, if you can't find it, is to email us. We will reach out. We know the Coach.ca staff member who works on handball. We know the people at Handball Ontario. We will do the legwork of finding the information for you. So, as a catch-all for any issues you have, just email us. There's like 4 or 5 different emails on the website, but if not, you can always email education@coachesontario.ca, and that will get to one of us, and we'll answer it. We usually answer in 1 or 2 days. We're pretty quick on a turnaround. If you're really old school, we also have a phone number. You can call us, and we're pretty good at picking it up. If not, we'll call you back. So that's a good answer for those very specific things. If you get stuck with a sport that maybe it's a little hard to figure out that pathway.
Great. I have a couple more questions coming in. I'm just going to keep them rolling here.
Right.
The in-person courses for badminton and CCP are usually in Toronto. How can we get courses in other regions of the province?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll give you a couple answers. So the reason they're often in the GTA is because they need a minimum amount of coaches to fill them. So they usually most courses need sort of 6 or 8 at a minimum to run them. So if Badminton Ontario posts like a public course in a more remote area of the province, they won't really get enough people to fill it. However, if you have 6 or 8 people, then they're usually pretty happy to come out there and run a course. So if you can help be the legwork of locating those people in your community that might want that course, then just reach out to them and say, hey, I have 6 people, I have 8 people, we'd love to take this course. Then they'll definitely think about bringing someone out there for you to run that course. And so that's something that you can really look at. They need a little help doing that coordination. There is another trick I will give you. If you're kind of on the border of Ontario, either with Manitoba or Quebec, you can take the NCCP course in another province. I probably shouldn't mention that to you, but you definitely can. And the reason is it's a national system. The course you take in Manitoba or Quebec is the same course. And it's the same standard and it goes to the locker the same way, and the province recognizes it the same way. So people who live in like Kenora sometimes take courses in Winnipeg because it's a bit closer.
There's great. More questions coming in. How many levels of soccer coaching badges are available? Example,
Yeah.
DCB, etc.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll answer it quickly because it's just very specific. But the old NCCP system used to be called the level system. If some of you may remember, there's levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The new system has different contexts, and so that's why that learn to train status we mentioned earlier. And there's a little bit of information about that. I can send you more if you email me. Soccer has some new pathways they're coming out with right now, which is they called C diploma, B diploma, A diploma. They have 3 there. So if you're new to that system, you would be starting at the C diploma level. But that is for kind of high performance people working in a very competitive space. They have a grassroots pathway you can find on their website as well, with this sort of learn to train components. Definitely follow up with an email about that. And I am the soccer person, so you can email me.
That's it in the Q&A section. I also answered them. So hopefully, if you're still unsure about your response, I did drop education at Coaches Ontario and info at Coaches Ontario. Info comes to me, so you're welcome to use that if it's easier to remember, as well as our phone number in the chat. But as Stuart said, we're always here. Absolutely. So we have a question here. Can we have access to this video? So Stuart's going to wrap up when he's ready, but we're going to circulate the slides, the recording, as well as the key links that Stuart mentioned afterwards, and registration for mentorship and so forth in the coming weeks. So absolutely, you will receive this recording. Do we have a U12, U13 soccer league? There are There are many. Stuart, do you want to
Yeah, there
take
are
that?
many. Soccer Ontario is probably the place to go. One thing, Soccer Ontario is actually has a good website that has a lot of information, and they have a great staff directory under their contact us page with all of their like 50 staff members. So under the development thing there's a bunch of different staff you can email directly. They're usually actually pretty good at responding to that. If you get stuck though, just email us. But yeah, there's a lot of different leagues. Depends where you are in the province, right? And what level you want to work at. But soccer is probably, if not the biggest, perhaps the second biggest sport in the province.
Great. Final question. If someone has a different coaching diploma from another country, how can that be translated?
It's a good question. It is possible. So what you want to do is get your information about what coaching education you have from the other country together. So if you have any documentation or information, and then reach out to your sport. So go through their contact information and say, hey, I have this, and I'm looking at what type of equivalency I can get. So the process is called direct to evaluation. This is the wording you want to write down. And basically what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we think this is equivalent to about this system in our system, this level in our system, and they'll just come do an evaluation if they think it makes sense. So they might say, it doesn't really match. We want you to go through the system. Or they might say, okay, this is pretty good. We will just come have someone do an evaluation and then see if you're missing any components that are not, that your system doesn't have, but ours does. They might ask you to take a couple e-learning things or small components, but it is possible to get an equivalency for other coach certifications that you're coming in with. Is that it, Brooke? That was some
That's
good set of
that's
questions,
it.
to be
Yeah, those are
honest.
excellent questions. We answer those types of questions every day, and we're always here for more. So please don't hesitate. If you think of something afterwards, just let us know. Um, we're here to support you. Um, and we know it can be an overwhelming amount of information. So, so yeah, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, Brooke. Thanks everyone for coming. And Gabriella, thanks again for sharing your story. And I'm glad to learn more about your coaching journey and keep coaching, hey?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. And I hope everyone has learned something and starts coaching.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, everyone, I think we're going to wrap the webinar here, but as Brooke said, definitely follow up with us and we will follow up with you within a few days, up to no more than a week. We'll send you an email with all the information from this webinar, slides, videos, and everything.
Yes, I've also dropped a quick survey in the chat. For those of you very familiar with the sports system, you will get a PD point for attending today. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. I'm going to circulate it and we'll have a little explanation in the wrap-up email. But I see some faces on our attendee list that will probably want to access that, which is great. And then it also just, we'd like to know more about, did you get what you were looking for out of this webinar? Was this helpful for you? And if not, is there anything else that you would like to know from us? And we'll follow up on those responses as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brooke, for that. And we'll stick around here in the chat for a few more minutes, but otherwise, everyone have a great night, and we hope to see you out there coaching.